What up, Ninja Clan, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am, as always, your host, the Atomic Ninja G, and today we're going to be talking about my experience at a Star Wars Unlimited pre-release event for Twilight of the Republic. So, as you can see, I have the box here. It is empty because I had to buy it there and then and use it there and then, because that is what you do with a pre-release box when you go to a pre-release event. So first off, we're going to talk about what comes in the box, and then we'll look at the deck that I built, and we'll talk a little bit about how I did at the tournament. So one of the most important things you get in the box is this, building a pre-release deck guide. So you get 6 packs of cards, and you need to build a deck of 30 cards or more. Standard deck building rules apply, so it's 1 leader, 1 base, and up to 3 aspects. Now, for leaders, you can choose any of the leaders that you pulled in your 6 packs, or you can use one of the 2 leaders that came in the pre-release box, and we'll talk about those in a minute. As for bases, if you did not get the colour that you need to make the deck, then 9 times out of 10, somebody will let you borrow their base, or sometimes the store has a bunch of bases on hand that they can just lend you if you needed like a green base or a blue base. They'll just let you borrow that base for the night and you're good to go. However, you cannot use an epic base unless you drew it in your packs. As for deck construction, it is pretty much the same as a standard game with just 2 differences. Like I said, it's a 30 card minimum deck. Now you can take more than 30 cards, but it's 30 card minimum, and if you drew 4, 5, or even 6 copies of a card, this time you can use them all. You are not limited to 3 copies of a card, just for the pre-release deck. You also get this really cool cardboard deck box. It's super handy for storing the cards you don't use during pre-release, or if you're getting rid of the box and everything else, sticking all your cards in after the event is done. It's made of cardboard, but it's pretty sturdy. I still use my 2 from the last pre-release boxes I opened. They're really good. They're really well built, well done Fantasy Flight. Those deck boxes all come with this cardboard divider. Sorry about the lighting. Oh, it's terrible. There we go. With the art from the box. And you also get your standard tokens. Initiative token. Finished doing my epic action token. What is this called? Does anyone know? And all your damage tokens as well. So moving on to some of the cooler things that we get in the box. First off, we get these 2 promo leaders. So you get Ahsoka and you get Grievous. Now in the previous pre-release boxes, I'm pretty sure the leaders came in as foil. These guys are not foil, which is really sad because Ahsoka is one of my favourite Star Wars characters. And I really wanted a foil Ahsoka, but I don't get one because they're not foil anymore. And that makes me very, very sad. But looking at the leaders and what they do then, let's start with General Grievous. So he is a cunning villainy aspect. You exert him to give a droid unit Sentinel for this turn. And when you have 6 resources or more, you get to flip him. Oh, he's upside down. So he becomes a 6 cost 4/8, and on attack, you may give a droid unit +1/+0 and Sentinel for this phase. Now, I did forget to point out that even though they're not foil, they are hyperspace, which does make them slightly cooler than the actual starter deck cards. Now, while Grievous is very cool in a droid deck, I still love Ahsoka a bit more. I'm not gonna lie. So let's take a look at what she does. So Ahsoka comes in. She is an aggression heroism unit. She has coordinate. So you exert this card, you attack with a unit, it gets +1/+0 for this attack. Now, coordinate means that you can only use that ability if you have 3 or more units on the board. When she has 5 resources available, she can flip an epic action, also upside down. And when she flips, she is a 5 cost, a 3/6, and again has coordinate. This unit gains +2/+0. Along with these 2 promo leaders, we also get 6 packs of cards. Now, I can't show you the 6 packs as 6 packs because I've opened them already, and there they are. Now, I'm not going to show you what I pulled because I think that would take way too long. But what I am going to do is show you the deck that I constructed for the event. We'll talk a little bit about how I did. And the other thing I didn't show you that does not come in the pre-release box, but we did get, for showing up, a pack of promo cards. So we're going to take a look at my deck, and then we're going to open these together at the end. So these are the leaders that I pulled in my packs, including Ahsoka and Grievous. Now, one of the first mistakes that I made was I totally forgot you could use these two. So we're going to take those off the board because I obviously didn't use them, having forgotten about them. So the first thing I did with these 6 leaders is I took a look at all their abilities to find out what they did and to see if their abilities were conditional. So do you need something to trigger the ability, or would it just trigger whatever I had in my deck? So we'll start with Maul in the top here then. So he has an action, you exert him, attack with a unit, it gains Overwhelm for this attack. That's great. That just triggers on its own. You don't need anything to use that. Padme Amidala, she has Coordinate. So you need 3 units on the board in order to trigger her ability. You then spend 1 resource and exert this leader. Search the top 3 cards of your deck for a Republic card. Reveal it and draw it. Put the other cards on the bottom of your deck in a random order. Gain this ability while you control 3 or more units. Now for me, that was way too conditional. First off, you need to have 3 other units on your board. And secondly, you need to be playing a Republic deck, which in a pre-release event, you cannot guarantee. So for me, Amidala is out. Moving on to Master Yoda. So his action is you exert him. If a unit left play this phase, draw a card. Then put a card from your hand on the top or bottom of your deck. Now again, this one is slightly conditional because something has to leave play during this phase. In a game where people are building droids and clones, it might be pretty easy. And in hindsight, a lot of things did leave the field quite often. But at the time, I thought this may be a little too conditional. Plus, we've only got a 30-card deck. So I didn't really want to be cycling through my deck. Even though you're not taking cards out, you're not reducing the deck, because you get to put one from your hand back on top or bottom. But I didn't know if cycling through the deck was a great idea. Now again, in hindsight, I'm starting to see how cool that would actually be in a pre-release event. But at the time, I didn't really see the potential, so Yoda was out for me. Next up, we have a Hyperspace Asajj Ventress. So she has the action exert attack with a unit. If you played an event this phase, it gets +1 for this attack. Again, it's pre-release. In a constructed deck format where you can throw in a ton of events into your deck, that's fantastic. I did not want to be going in with a ton of events in my deck and nothing else, so you guessed it, bye-bye Asajj. Then we have Newt Gunray. If 2 or more friendly units were defeated this phase, create a battle droid token. There were 2 things about this card I didn't really like. Firstly, 2 or more friendly units had to be defeated, and secondly, you got to create droid tokens. Now, in fairness to Firestorm Games and the people who organised the event, they had a ton of droid tokens on hand if people wanted to borrow some. The big problem really was that everybody wanted droid tokens. So as soon as I realised that everyone was playing droids and everyone wanted droid tokens, and if you didn't have the token, you couldn't play the droid, and the fact that 2 of your units had to die for this to take effect, I was done. So he's also gone. So then we have Jango Fett. When a friendly unit deals damage to an enemy unit, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, exhaust that enemy unit. Now, I love this card. It's also hyperspace, but it's conditional on you doing damage. You don't have to defeat anything. Your units don't have to leave play. You're not creating anything. You just do damage. So you don't even have to kill your opponent's stuff. In fact, you're kind of better off not killing your opponent's stuff, because when you don't, you get to exert that unit. Then it came down, basically, to these 2 guys. So, he's upside down. We flipped them over to see what we were bringing. So, Maul has a 6/6, Jango has a 3/7. Now, Maul's ability is he has Overwhelm, which means if he does excess damage to an opponent, it then goes onto the base. And the other part of his ability is that each other friendly unit gains overwhelm. So while he's out in unit form, everything else on the board gets overwhelm as well as him. And then Django is that when a friendly unit deals damage to an enemy unit, you may exhaust that unit. And in the end, I went with Maul, simply because he's got a bit more attack power and only one less defense. So Django was a very, very good contender for my leader, but eventually Maul wins out. So I'll tell you what, we'll flip him back over and we'll pop Maul up here. The next thing that I did was take a quick look at what colours I had in my bases. I ended up with 2 copies of The Nest, I got 2 hyperspace copies of Tipoca City, and I got 2 copies of level 1313, which I've just realised I literally pulled the same 3 bases. Now, automatically off the bat, I knew that I did not want to play double red. I did not see the point of that in a pre-release event, so the nests are gone, which then left me with 1 green and 1 yellow base in contention. So the next thing I did then was divide all of my cards that I had in my packs into their aspects. So I made a pile of command, aggression, vigilance, cunning, heroism, villainy, and vanilla. Now again, it's a pre-release event. I do not want to be playing outside of aspect, which means 2 things. First thing it means is I am automatically playing an aggression deck, because Maul is an aggression leader. Maul is also a villainy leader, which means I'm also automatically playing villainy cards. But what it also means is that I'm not playing heroism cards, so they're automatically out. Now, the other thing is I didn't have a blue base, and I could have borrowed one, but I honestly didn't think of that at the time, so vigilance is also gone. So my plan from that point on was basically to take a look at these 3 piles. Now, I knew I was automatically taking aggression, so I knew they were there. So the next point was to take a look at these 2 and see which pile was either the biggest or had the most useful units. Now, as you can see, this is a command heroism unit. So the next thing I did was took out all the heroism cards from those aspects. And as you can see, Jar Jar Binks here is a double cunning unit. Again, I didn't want to pay any kind of aspect penalty because you've only got 30 cards. So the next thing I did was took out all the double aspect cards. And then when all of that was done, it was very clear to me that the cards I had that would be most useful would be cunning. So with that said, command was gone. Now, I had some cunning, I had aggression. Obviously, the base was gone as well. I was playing red, yellow, and I did use a couple of vanilla cards and villainy cards just to bump up my numbers to 30. So, let's take a look at the deck that I played. First up then, we have the only vanilla card in this deck, which is Hold Out Blaster. It is a 1-cost upgrade, gives you a +1/+0, and you attach it to a non-vehicle unit. When played, you may have attached unit deal 1 damage to a ground unit. It's a nice 1-cost, cheeky damage that gives you a +1. Who wouldn't want to take it? Next up, we will do our villainy cards. So here we go. I have 2 copies of the Super Battle Droid. And I took it simply because it's a 4/3 and a 3 cost. Does nothing else, but it's really cool. And one of them's a foil. Yay! So we had 2 of those. I also took Merciless Contest. It's a 3-cost event. Each player chooses a non-leader unit they control. Defeat those units. I took this as a last kind of minute, last-ditch attempt. If somebody had something really big on the board and it was all they had, and I had something smaller and I couldn't take it out, this was going to be there just to kill it off. And then I had Execute Order 66. So it's a 4-cost event, deals 6 damage to each Jedi unit. For each unit defeated this way, its controller creates a clone trooper token. Now, I took this because I knew there were some leaders that were Jedi. For example, there was Yoda and Anakin, and I also know there are some Jedi units in this game. So I took that, again, as one of those contingency things. If I knew somebody wasn't playing a Jedi leader, then I would usually resource this. However, in my last game, my opponent was playing Anakin. So I drew this in my opening hand, and I kept it for when they brought him out. Did I use it? You'll find out soon. Next up, let's go with Cunning, because this pile is super exciting for me. So let's do Cunning. So I got this 2-cost Hotshot V-Wing. It's a 2/3 space unit. We've got a 1-cost Clone Dive Trooper. He's a 2/1 and has Coordinate. So while this unit is attacking, the defender gets -2, -0. And you gain this ability while you control 3 or more units. Then we have a Favorable Delegate. Now this guy I actually ended up using quite a bit. He is a 2-cost 1/5, great defense. When played, draw a card. When defeated, discard a card from your hand. Now that last bit not so great, but in pre-release, if you get to draw cards, that's fantastic. And defensive 5. We then have the Soulless one. It is a 1-cost unit, 1/2. On attack, you may exhaust a friendly droid unit or General Grievous, leader or unit. If you do, this unit gets +2, +0 for this attack. Now, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of space units, and I still think that on average, people don't take enough space units. So the fact that I had a couple of space units in my pre-release packs made me very excited, and the fact that I knew I had some droids in my deck meant that I could exert some of them to get this guy going. I really enjoyed this ship. It did a lot of damage for me in the end. It was great. One of the highest cards I have in this deck, it's a 7-cost Tri-Droid Suppressor. It's a 4/7, which is why I took it. Has Exploit 2, so while playing this card, defeat up to 2 units you control. This card costs 2 less for each unit defeated this way. Now, I did use Coordinate a couple of times during my games. I never once used Exploit, because it's pre-release. I didn't have any expendable units because I wasn't creating droids or anything, so I never used Exploit. However, if I was making a straight-up create droids all over the place kind of deck, I would totally use Exploit. It's a really great ability. When played, exhaust an enemy ground unit, which is the main reason I took this, for its ability. Okay, Hidden Sharpshooter. It's a 4-cost 4/3 and has Ambush. So when you play this unit, it may ready and attack an enemy unit. Ambush is one of my favourite keywords in this game. We have the 2-cost B1 Security Team. It's a 3/1 and has Sentinel. This guy I use quite a bit as well, actually. It's a 4-cost Infiltrating Demolisher. It's a 4/5, has Exploit 1, so you defeat 1 to make him pay 2 less, and has Saboteur. Now, I did play one opponent who kept playing Sentinel, and this guy came in super handy for sniping his leader. I then have a Geonosis Patrol Fighter. I have 2 of these. One is a Hyperspace and one is a regular. They are 5-cost 3/2 Exploit 2, so destroy 2 units. For every unit you destroy or defeat, this costs 2 less. When played, you may return a non-leader unit that costs 3 or less to its owner's hand. Again, space unit, does 3 damage. At one point, I had both of them on the board. Super exciting. Then we have Political Pressure. It's an event, it's 1 cost. Choose an opponent. They may discard a random card from their hand. If they don't, create 2 Battle Droid tokens. Now, I took this mainly to resource. There are some cards in this deck where I was like, I'm not going to do those things, but I can use them as automatic resource if I need to. For example, this next card. So these aggressions out the way. It is a 4-cost on the doorstep. Create 3 Battle Droid tokens and ready them. I was never going to do that, but I knew if I drew this, I could just resource it and not have to stress as much. Then we have Wartime Profiteering, which I think is our last one, yeah. It's a 1-cost. Look at the cards on the top of your deck equal to the number of units that were defeated this phase. Draw 1 and put the others on the bottom of your deck in a random order. Now, I think I used this card 1 time, and I had used one of my units to defeat my opponent's units, and I got to draw 2 cards. and one of those cards was flipping amazing. I think, if I'm right, it was actually one of the Geonosis ships. So it was great because I got to play something into the space, and again, not a lot of people take space. So it was super, super helpful. So that is all of my cunning that I took. Let's talk about aggression, because some of these cards, oh my days, guys, I was so excited to pick some of these cards up. First off, one cost event, the only red event I have, Daring Raid. Deal 2 damage to a unit or a base. In pre-release, flippin' fantastic. Then I've got a 4 cost Heavy. It's a 4/4, has Coordinate and Raid 2. So you need 3 units on the board for Coordinate to work, and it has Raid 2. So when it attacks, it gets a +2. It becomes a 6/4 in a pre-release event. That is stupid. And when defeated, deal 1 damage to each enemy ground unit. This card is just flipping amazing. We then have Relentless Rocket Droid. It's a 4-cost 3/5. While you control another trooper unit, this unit gets +2/+0. Makes it a 5/5. Just get in. And even though Separatists and Clones and Republics don't usually go together, they're all troopers, so that really works out great. Then we have one of my favourite space units so far, a 6-cost Squadron of Vultures. 5/4, Exploit 3. Now, Exploit, again, didn't use, but it's a 5 damage unit in space, in a game where people don't utilise space as much as they should, in my opinion. It's straight up 5 damage. It's just amazing. Okay, we have a Hyperspace 2-cost Clone Heavy Gunner, has Coordinate, so 3 units on the board, and then this unit gets +2/+0, which makes it a 3/3 instead of the 1/3 that it is. And yeah, I got a Hyperspace and a regular. Then I've got this 2-cost Dendups Loyalist. I'm gonna be honest, I spent most of my time resourcing this one, but she's a 2/3 and has Overwhelm. Then I've got a 2-cost Vanguard Droid Bomber. It's a 2/2, and when played, if you control another Separatist unit, deal 2 damage to an enemy base. So, it was very simple. I wouldn't play this card until I had a Separatist on the board. I do have a number of Separatists in here. Happy days. Oh yes, now this was one of my MVPs. This card was amazing. It's a 3-cost B1 attack platform. 5 damage, 2 strength. Now 2 strength doesn't sound amazing, but in a pre-release event, when someone's hitting this and it's doing 5 back, people were scared of this. It was amazing. I love this card so much. If I had an MVP that wasn't one of the special ones that's coming up next, it would be this guy. Then we start with some of the most exciting cards that I pulled. So we have Sauvage Oppress. Oh yes, this guy did very well for me. He is a 7-cost, 7/7, and has, when played, if you control fewer units, including this one, than an opponent, ready this unit. So if your opponent has 3 cards, and you have 2, including him, then he just comes in basically with ambush. Just incredible. Next up, we have a foil Asajj Ventress. She is a 4-cost, 2/4, has Exploit 2. I'm not sure why you would need Exploit on her. By turn 2, you're playing her, but whatever. On attack, if you've attacked with another Separatist unit this phase, this unit gains +3/+0 for this phase. You attack with a Separatist unit, she is now a 5/4. Just awesome. Absolutely awesome. However, not the most awesome card that I drew. So the last card I want to show you is this legendary Darth Maul. That's right, people. Maul in the house. He is a 5-cost, 5/6. This unit can attack 2 units instead of 1. That's right, he attacks 2 instead of 1. Buy 1, get 1 free. This unit deals its combat damage to both defenders, and they both deal their combat damage to this unit. All damage is dealt simultaneously. So, What that basically means is if my opponent has 2 units, I'm hitting them both at the same time. So guys, this was the deck that I ended up taking in my pre-release game. We played 4 rounds. I lost the first 2. I won my 3rd match. That's right. I went to a tournament, guys, and I actually won a match. And then I lost my last one, but only just. So I won 1, lost 3, again, had an absolute blast. So guys, I'm going to tidy this stuff up, and then we're going to open this pack. Alright guys, and welcome back. So, here we go. Now, I did see a number of people struggle with this, so I'm going to be very, very careful. The cards are there, and we're just going to snip across the top. There we go. We're open. We're live. Now, there are 3 cards in here. Let's see if we can. There we go. There we go. Everyone else opened theirs on the night, and you could use these in your decks. However, I choose not to open mine, because I wanted to open them here with you guys. So, here we go. What have we got? Battle Droid Escort. Okie dokie. This is a nice card. It's hyperspace, and I like it. So, it's a 1-1. When played and when defeated, create a Battle Droid token. Nice. Next up, we've got Separatist Commando. It's a 2-cost, 2-3, sorry. While you control another Separatist unit, this unit gains Raid 2. Nice. And our big promo card for the pack is OP1 Security Team. Yeah! I could have used him. Actually, I could have used all 3 of them. But never mind. Oh, I like this. This is super cool. Look at that. Oh, I don't know what the promo cards are for this set. I really should have looked them up beforehand. But this is super cool. I like this one a lot. It's a 3-1, has Sentinel, and I really enjoy the foiling on that. So, guys, that was my experience at the pre-release tournament. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do me a favor, click that like button, click that subscribe button, because next week is Star Wars week, which means I got the starter decks to open, I've got a booster box to open with the nephew, and the nephew and I have a very special plan in mind for that booster box. So turn on those notifications so you don't miss the really cool stuff we've got planned for you guys. But until next time, I have been the Atomic Ninja G. You guys have been awesome, and this has been my experience of a Star Wars Unlimited pre-release event.